Okay, well, we've given an extra minute for everybody to get in. I would like to say thank you so much for joining us for this panel today on disability inclusion, access, and opportunity. My name is Kamala Forbes, and I'm the Global Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion at Pride Global. We're excited to be partnering with AHRC New York today to bring this panel to you on disability inclusion practices. I have a wonderful lineup of panelists with me that's going to be sharing their expertise with you and helping you with some actionable takeaway items that you'll be able to walk away and implement in your organizations to ensure that you're being more inclusive to persons with disabilities. July is Disability Pride Month, and it's the month that the American Disabilities Act was signed into law in 1990. Now, Disability Pride Month celebrates disabled persons embracing their disabilities as integral parts of who they are and honoring the history, achievements, experiences, and struggles of the disability community. Now, many businesses have DE&I initiatives, and they strive to build cultures of belonging. But we do want to make sure that they're thinking beyond race and gender and sexual orientation, age, and nationality. So questions for you are, have you considered inclusion for persons with disabilities or as a part of your DE&I efforts? Disability crosses every demographic. So to create equitable workplaces, it should be a part of any company's DE&I approach. A few stats for you. There are 1.3 billion people living with disabilities worldwide. But this group is generally a missing piece within the global conversation about diversity, equity, and inclusion. People with disabilities disproportionately face income inequality and low labor force participation. According to the United States Department of Labor Bureau statistics, it says 21.3 of US adults with disabilities were employed in 2022. Now that's much lower than the 65.4 rate for persons without a disability. So you can also advance disability inclusion through your supply chain by working with vendors that are owned, managed, or staffed by people with disabilities. Now we're going to chat about all of this and more with our wonderful panelists. And AHRC New York will provide brief bios for our panelists. So we will get started, and I would like to first introduce our first panelist, Justin Perkins.
Hi, good afternoon. Justin Perkins. I'm Assistant Director of Employment and Business Services for AHRC NYC, a service provider annually supporting over 15,000 people who are neurodiverse and their family, sorry. And then for me personally, I've worked for AHRC for about 16, 17 years. And during this time, I've helped hundreds of people prepare for, obtain, and maintain life-changing employment opportunities while providing guidance and support to our many business partners.
Thank you so much, Justin. And Hannah Lee, I'll turn it over to you.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much. My name is Hannah Lee. I am the Executive Leadership Associate and People Operations Manager at Chelsea Piers. I work both on our People Operations team, specifically in hiring, recruiting, and then I also work to and support the CEO with different special projects.
Thank you so much, Hannah. And Whitney Sessoms.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Whitney Sessoms, Assistant Director of People and Culture at the Horticulture Society of New York, overseeing the Human Resources team. So at the Hort, we promote inclusion and accessibility in our programs and our work environment and for all of our members. And through our partnerships with organizations like AHRC NYC, we're able to extend employment opportunities to New Yorkers with disabilities and truly be an accessible and inclusive workplace for all. The Hort works directly with agencies like AHRC NYC to hire, train, and support clients and provide pathways for working in green careers. I'm very excited to chat with you all this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you, Whitney. And over to your colleague, Lauren Keene-Farrell.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lauren Keene-Farrell. I'm Senior Director of Administration at the Hort, and like Whitney expanded on, we're a nonprofit organization. Our mission is to improve human life through horticulture. In my position, I oversee administrative areas such as development, finance, and contract administration, payroll, and human resources. The Hort has always been a workplace where inclusion is celebrated, originally through our horticulture internship programs, and more recently through our workforce development expansion a couple of years ago. As a background-friendly organization, we pride ourselves on creating a work environment where every individual can feel excited about their job to improve human life through horticulture.
Amazing, thank you. And last but certainly not least, I will turn it over to Edie Weber.
Good afternoon, everyone. Happy to be here. I also work for AHRC New York City. I'm the Director of Employment and Business Services. As Justin had mentioned, AHRC is a 70-year-old family-governed organization with a mission to advocate for people who are neurodiverse to lead full and equitable lives. I've worked for AHRC New York City for over 32 years in lots of different capacities in programmatic, financial, and administrative functions. And I'm also the proud mom of a 24-year-old son with autism who has experienced firsthand the life-changing benefits of employment through a social enterprise. My son has gained confidence and a sense of self-worth that continues to empower him to pursue his career goals. So thank you, and I'm happy to be here.
Well, thank you. And thank you all for the introductions. And I can't wait to dive into the conversation. And so I would love to get started with Hannah. Why is disability inclusion important to your organization? And maybe can you share some of the initiatives that Chelsea Peer is undertaking to promote disability inclusion?
So we at Chelsea Piers really value our relationship with AHRC. We've hired so many great candidates who have stayed with us for really quite a long time, our exemplary employees. We believe disability inclusion is important to our organization because it really creates a much more diverse workforce and brings people together in situations where people aren't really kind of expecting to be, or where their normal kind of day-to-day experiences are like. And we really value bringing people together and having them connect and learn from each other. And then some initiatives is definitely working with you guys. And we just recently relaunched our employee experience committee, where we have employees from different venues, locations, representing their respective teams so that we can really kind of enhance the work experience, create different employee resource groups, and we're really looking to create a more kind of inclusive and kind of belonging culture.
All right, well, thank you. And then Whitney, maybe the same question over to you. Why is disability inclusion important to you all at the Hort? And what initiatives do you all have going on?
Thank you. At the Hort, one of our first initiatives to increase disability inclusion was to find a like-minded partner organization that also believes and institutes the same core values regarding employment for people with disabilities. The Hort partners with AHRC to educate, train, and prepare our teams to support disability inclusion on all levels. So our mission at the Hort is to improve lives through horticulture, like Lauren mentioned before, and we intend to reflect that in our recruitment, our programming, and through supportive partnerships with organizations like AHRC NYC. Some of the other initiatives of disability inclusion at the Hort would include our IDEA committee, which was formed in the fall of 2021. And it comprises team members from every department. We instituted an annual diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility organization-wide survey to try to identify and eliminate biased practices while advocating for anti-racist and anti-discriminatory policies and practices. Our IDEA committee is a working group dedicated to personal learning, community learning, and engaging in dialogue on matters related to inclusion, diversity, equity, and accessibility for all. The Hort models disability and inclusion and accessibility by educating ourselves about our current team members and preparing for new team members' arrivals before their first day. With the help of job coaches, detailed communication, and maintaining healthy contact with our partners between hires, we can successfully ensure first days and longevity and safe working environments. The HORT also maintains a background-friendly approach, as Lauren mentioned earlier as well, to reduce the barriers to employment for all folks. Lastly, through continued growth and learning, we've embarked on an ambitious task to edit our language to be more inclusive to the communities that we exist in, that we serve, and that we employ. We ensure all managers are provided access to training materials, resources, and tools to support common opportunities experienced when transitioning to a more inclusive environment.
I love that you brought that up, Whitney. The language piece is so important, for everybody it's a big part of inclusion, regardless of whether it's disability inclusion or any other kind of inclusion. And I think your company is to be commended on taking that part of the education piece. I want to circle back to a part that you mentioned about not only your IDEA working group being supportive of the people that are already there, but preparing for the people who are about to come into the organization. And so, Lauren, I'd like to ask you, while inclusion obviously in the workplace is important, inclusion needs to start before the candidate is even hired. And so what modifications have you all made to like the recruiting and hiring and interviewing process to make it more accessible to people with disabilities?
Great question. Thank you. We have absolutely made modifications to our recruitment, interview, hiring process, and continue to strive to make further improvements to improve the entire experience. We feel really strongly that an individual or a candidate's experience with us begins the moment they submit their resume. And we want to make that entire process one that's really comfortable and inclusive. It's their first introduction to us as an organization, and we want to have a really positive impression. One of the first modifications that we made to our recruitment process was to eliminate any sort of degree requirement for almost all of our positions. We want to make sure that our job descriptions really clearly convey that things like experience or transferable skills are just as, if not more valuable than a diploma. We also periodically will review the physical requirements of our positions and identify areas that we can make accommodations to be more inclusive. Things like, weightlifting requirements for some of our field-based positions. And then we also develop relationships with our partner organizations like AHRC NYC to help broaden our network. We encourage our staff to refer individuals from their network that they think might be a positive addition to our organization. And then when working with partner organizations, we send the job description over to our partner or the job coach. We discuss the requirements, what accommodations can be made either to the job, along with what accommodations a candidate might need in the interview process. We will primarily communicate with candidates via email, so that way we're able to copy their job coach or partner organization to the communications, make sure that nothing slips through the cracks. But if someone does request, telephone is their primary method of communication, we'll accommodate that. We make sure on our website, on all of our job descriptions, and in our communication to candidates that we demonstrate how we're able to accommodate any requests that they may have for accommodations during the hiring process. And then we have a multi-step interview process. So candidates who apply, we first do a phone screen where we run through the basics of the position, and we outline the entire process for them right from that phone screen. And if the candidate is then moved along in the process, we'll set up an interview. We utilize a hiring matrix for all of our interviews to ensure equity in the process. And while the core competencies that we evaluate candidates on, such as time management or job motivation, remain the same, we will modify the questions that we ask candidates to make sure that everyone's experience is accessible and inclusive. And finally, when we do set up our interviews, we make sure that the hiring manager is paired from someone with HR who's trained in disability etiquette and awareness. Quite an extensive recruitment, interview, hiring process.
I love it, right? It's extensive, but it is taken into the context that everybody is different. And I love that you said, yes, a primary means is by email, but you're willing to change that based on each individual's needs because everybody has different needs. And so being accommodating of that and understanding what those needs are to help them put their best foot forward is so important. I also love something else I just want to highlight that you said in there was about the skills-based hiring, right? I think in this day and age, we're so used to seeing the requirements of education requirement or something on there. But when you really dive into it, we're like, what does that degree necessarily mean? What is it that you're actually looking for from that degree? And if we could focus in on that, that would give us even better candidates and again, open up these talent pools for us to be a lot more inclusive to a lot more demographics. And so I love that you all are focused on that at the HORT. Hannah, that brings me over to you over at Chelsea Peers. Is there anything similar or different that you could add that you all are focusing on as it relates to the hiring and interviewing processes to be more inclusive of people with disabilities?
Of course, absolutely. So we are really looking to kind of further our diversity and kind of just inclusion policies coming the next 2 quarters and into next year. We're really, our learning and development director is really passionate about incorporating this into everything from hiring, onboarding, training, different opportunities. We, similar to Lauren, we have really reevaluated our job descriptions to understand like what a bachelor, what a degree really means, and if that's something that's really necessary for certain positions. So we've really been combing through those, really talking with hiring managers, understanding what they're really looking for, and again, looking for skills. We think that's really kind of the future of work, is really being able to find people with the right skills above anything else. And then within the interviewing process, we always work with AHRC. We work with Juliet and Martha, and they're great in terms of being liaisons for the candidates and our hiring managers, and making sure that the hiring managers kind of understand what they should understand. And Juliet's always been very kind of open and willing to help us and teach us. And then we're also, I really like Lauren's idea of really kind of training interviewers to, when they do interview somebody with a disability. I think that would be a great training. We want to kind of revamp our whole hiring process. So that's definitely something that I would love to bring up to our team. So thank you for sharing that idea.
Yes, that's what this is all about. We're best practices. We share, we share ideas and take them back and implement them, because the whole point of this is to be able to make an impact and to make a difference in our practices and our inclusion efforts. So I also do want to just say, as we go along, if there are any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat, and we'll save some time at the end to take some questions as well. So Justin, that brings me over to you. Obviously, being on the AHRC New York team, we know a little bit of background about what the organization does, but when you have 2 of your clients here who speak so highly of the need and the partnership, the benefits of the partnership of AHRC in providing that support. But can you tell our audience a little bit more about what you all do and in different ways that you're able to support organizations to be more inclusive in their hiring practices?
Yeah, sure. So as Edie had mentioned before, as an agency, we've been around for over 70 years, right? And in terms of our supported employment program, it started in the 80s, and we're pretty large. We're the largest one in New York State, which makes us one of the largest supported employment programs in the country. So currently we have 1,500 people enrolled throughout the 5 boroughs, right? And then out of that, 940 of those people are currently employed, which is a great rate. I know you had mentioned the employment rates earlier, and this is much higher than those rates that we mentioned before. So we do have a good deal of success with placing people into jobs that come into our program. And then even those people that are working, 16% of those people, that 940 number, they have been employed for 5 years or more at the same job, right? So that's just speaking to some of the benefits that we can give to a partner business, right? Like a lot of the people that will come from us are people that want to stay, that they want to work and they want to stay, and the retention is very good, and we provide, you know, the tremendous amount of support. So in order to get those people to the job, right? So then we have to do all of our readiness activities and our job matching process. And that's where we can do all types of, we have situational assessments, diagnostic vocational evaluations, we have mock interviews, so we partner with volunteers as well, bring in people from the community and other businesses to do mock interviews. We have various training programs, right? So we have a janitorial training program, food services training program, warehousing training program. And when people come out of those programs, they come out with the certifications, and they can take that and put that on a resume, and it really helps move them forward in the job search process, because it shows like, yes, I went through this and this is what I can do. Like, this is what this certification means, right? So, and then we also have internships for everyone starting as young as like people in their last year of high school. We have a program for students to do internships in host businesses throughout the 5 boroughs. And then, you know, for anyone, any other age, right? So we provide services for people that 18 and till as long as you want to work. If you want to work, you can come to us, and we will help you out, right? So all of our job seekers will participate in some combination of those services. And then after that, you know, we'll make all the documentation, and we'll make sure to have all that information in one place for that person, so that everybody is able to access that information and knows when one of our marketing people finds an available job, whether that be at Chelsea Piers or at the Horticultural Society of New York. You know, our staff will look, they'll see the requirements of the job, right? And then they'll look for our people that are seeking jobs, seeking employment, and they'll make sure that, you know, they have the skills, the abilities, and interest to match that job. And then, you know, then we'll start moving forward with the interview process. And then, you know, once that person is hired, we come along with them, right? That person, once they're on the job, they have the support of a lot of people, right? They have support of the job coach that's going to be working with them on the job site, side by side, helping that person to acclimate to their new environment and helping them to learn all of the duties of the job so that they can be successful. And that job coach, you know, they'll slowly fade as the person becomes more independent. The job coaching support goes down, right? However, if let's say that person needs to learn a new task, or maybe there's some issues and things need to happen, things need to improve, then the job coach can come back in, provide more intensive supports to help that person become successful and maintain their employment. We also have the account executives who are always following up, making sure that things are okay, connecting directly with the employer. We've got the job coach supervisors who will come and visit the sites, and they will also provide, you know, guidance to the job coach if there are any issues. So that, you know, as long as a person is enrolled in our program, they will always have that support behind them. And I think that is, you know, a great thing to have for the person and for the business, because the business knows that, you know, if there's an issue, that they can always have someone else to call. Of course, we like it when, you know, the business speaks to the person directly, right? And talks to them and try to resolve the issue or teach the new task just on their own. But if more support is needed from us, we will always come back in, you know, no issues with that. And that, I mean, that's the main thing. Like that's what we do, and we will continue to do it and help people, gain these life-changing jobs. And we just want people to be successful out there.
Well, Justin, no wonder why your employment rates are so high. I mean, just listening to that, I was able to pull so much from that. And we talk about, yes, you're doing that for a community of people with disabilities, but that's exactly what's needed for just retention efforts in the workplace altogether, right? I mean, just having the job coach that you're saying, I mean, we know managers should be great coaches. And if your manager is doing exactly those same things to, keep an employee motivated and keep them engaged in the work and what they're doing, I mean, that's exactly what leads to retention and inclusion and belonging. And so it's amazing that you all offer that. I'd also say that another key point that we should point out here is just the fact that hiring people from the community, people with disabilities, is a great benefit that you talk about their retention, how long they typically stay at a job. I don't know if we don't have any stats on that right off the top, maybe if any of you do, but it seems like it would be that the retention rates for people with disabilities are higher than maybe typical retention rates. So I think that's just something else for people to keep in mind as you look at, maybe why should I look at that talent pool? And the last thing I would say is it's so amazing, all of the different benefits and training programs that you offer in support of the people with disabilities. I know that personally, Pride Global and AHRC has partnered and done mock interview events. And I know that that's been one of the things that's been a great highlight of some of the work that we've done with you all. And I obviously encourage any other companies that is able to do that to get involved with that as well. So thank you, Justin. And then Whitney, well, obviously as a partner with AHRC, you benefit from all of that wonderful stuff Justin just mentioned. Maybe can you speak to why it's so important to partner with an outside agency that could provide that kind of support and expertise? And then maybe what services, or maybe you have an example of something in particular that they provided that really was the catalyst for a successful outcome?
Absolutely. Thank you. At the HOR, we would highlight the importance of working with agencies such as AHRC NYC for the level of support they provide their clients before, during, and after employment. Justin just gave a great explanation on what that process looks like. So AHRC is staffed with experts on how to best become more inclusive in the workplace. So they meet with our team, in particular the HOR, to learn more about our jobs and what the HOR does in the community. So not just learning about what our work is, but what our organization does as well. And the HOR provides this information via scheduled meetings or any type of way that we can come together with all people involved. And we want to share what our work is with everyone that is privy to that or needs to know at the organization, so they can share that information with the client. AHRC also prepares clients with job skills, interview skills, and support through the application process and then onboarding. So they carry that client all the way through until they are comfortable kind of working a little bit more independently, like Justin stated before. Our partnership also allows for a flow of communication regarding job descriptions, location, schedule, and accommodations, all before we meet with the clients. So being properly prepared for that connection is always going to be more important and better for the client, because some of the folks that we meet need tons of structure and they have tons of questions, and we want to ease that anxiety or that nervousness that everyone has when starting a new job. AHRC sends job coaches to support clients on their first day and as needed. We in particular have a decentralized working environment. So our employees work independently a lot or report to a different work site throughout the day or on a daily basis. So that support from AHRC is extremely important to help develop appropriate routines. The Hort maintains contact with Employment and Career Services at AHRC NYC to ensure successful placement, positive milestones are shared, and to assist working through additional steps to best support their clients and team members. Justin gave a great example of if there's a new task that someone has to learn, they get that additional support through AHRC. AHRC also provide the Hort with leadership training on creating an inclusive environment. And this short training included conversations about the best ways to promote and practice disability inclusion in our organization, starting with highlighting that language piece. That's something that we got from AHRC that we're taking and running with. And the Hort's very proud of our partnership with AHRC NYC. Through their support, we're able to complete our mission of improving every New Yorker's life through horticulture and preparing people for green careers.
Well, what a glowing review there. Couldn't ask for a better testimonial, right? I mean, Justin, that just goes to speak to the level of involvement and the impact that you're making in your client partners. I guess for our audience listening who may not already be working with AHRC, can you share maybe some of the most successful partnerships or what it takes? Maybe there are different arrangements. Some companies might only need some of your services. You know, what does that look like? How do you engage with different clients to provide that talent and support?
Hey, yeah, so like we have a lot of different partnerships, right? And as you see, Chelsea Piers is here, the Hort is here. Those are two of our most successful ones. We also work with Salesforce, with Etsy. Those are two large ones. Barnes & Noble, Levi, excuse me, Levy's Restaurants in Barclays Center mainly. And because like you had mentioned, there are different kinds of arrangements that we can make with potential employers and with employers, right? So the most common one is a direct hire where the business works with us and someone goes on to their payroll right away from day one. And that is our most common practice. And generally those are like places that will hire maybe 1 to 2 people at a time, right? And then we also have contract arrangements where I know Edie's going to be talking about this later in the programming, but that is where the business and AHRC will have a contract. The business will pay us, and then we will pay the wages. So the employees will be on AHRC's payroll, but they'll be working inside that facility. Let's say like that's sort of the relationship we have with Etsy, right? So we provide a range of building services inside of Etsy. So our people are there every day. Etsy pays us, we pay our employees. So technically they're, our employees, not Etsy employees, right? The other thing that we could do, we also have an ability to have people start as paid interns, either paid through the state of New York or paid through AHRC, where someone will start the employment at the business, not being paid by the business, right? Paid by us or paid by the state, with the idea and the agreement that as time progresses and as the person learns the task and different evaluations and assessments are done, then the business will take that person onto their payroll. But that one, it does have time limit, like somebody can't just be on someone else's payroll indefinitely with you. So that it does come with the expectation that they will transfer and will be paid by the business. But sometimes that's what people need to do to get a foot in the door. Or sometimes that's what a business needs. Maybe they've never worked with an agency like us before, or maybe they've never really worked with people with disabilities. And sometimes it takes, like more creative solutions to get somebody in the door. But then once somebody's in, then the ball starts rolling.
That's great. And it's nice to know there's not just one approach, right? So different companies can engage and create their strategy for whatever works best for their company. And I love that. And just shifting gears a little bit here. We've talked a lot about the inclusion benefits for people with disabilities. We've talked about how to edit our maybe hiring practices and what training and support is needed for the diversified talent pools. But as we look at our DE&I strategy, it's not just about talent. I know at Pride Global, our comprehensive DE&I approach is on workforce. So yes, looking at that talent piece, workplace, looking at the inclusion and belonging piece, and then marketplace. And that's looking at a part of that focuses on our like nonprofit and partner relationships to build our pipelines, but also how are we being intentional about our spend with different diverse vendors and organizations so that we're looking holistically at how we're making an impact on diversity altogether. And so Eddie, I'd like to bring Edie, sorry, apologies. I'd like to bring you into the conversation here on this piece to help us round out what a fully inclusive DE&I strategy could look like when we start focusing on our supply chain. So Edie worked for the division of AHRC, which is Hudson River Services. And so can you speak to what Hudson River Services is and what is a social enterprise?
Sure, thank you. So Justin did a great job explaining supported employment and what we do to help people. And he also mentioned our partnerships with Etsy and Salesforce, which is really part of our social enterprise. And what is a social enterprise? It's a business with a mission and practices to address societal needs and really exists to serve the common good. So Hudson River Services is a social enterprise that was established by AHRC New York City in 1993. It offers a wide range of high quality services to businesses of all types, including private organizations like Etsy and Salesforce, nonprofits, and government agencies. So we have very large government contracts through our Hudson River Services for city, state, and federal. And those come to us through New York State Industries for the Disabled, as well as Source America. So, you know, our mission really is to create meaningful employment to people with intellectual and developmental disabilities in all 5 boroughs of New York City, while providing excellent quality and customer service to all our valued customers. So, you know, for more than 30 years, you know, we have been working on creating social enterprises with the mission to help individuals living in poverty and individuals with developmental disabilities to move from dependence and poverty into independence and economic self-sufficiency through partnering with various social responsible organizations, like we have our partners here today, and providing them with staffing solutions and services, wide range, janitorial, landscaping. We have a secure document destruction plant up in the Bronx. We have motor and foot messenger. We have kitchen services and much more, while really employing this marginalized population and changing the perception. That's the key, really changing the perception about what people with disabilities can deliver. So, you know, we have always believed in making a positive impact throughout our communities by empowering the people through work, right? That's important. I talked a little bit earlier in my introductions about my son, who really has been empowered through our social enterprise by becoming employed and gaining that confidence really to continue with his career goals. You know, we've helped so many people, over 10,000 New Yorkers, to find meaningful employment and move to self-sufficiency and independence. And I think that's really the key. Over 83% of our Hudson River Services staff are people with disabilities, and we choose our employees carefully and hold each worker to the highest standards. You know, Justin had mentioned, you know, the job matching process, and we do a lot of person-centered services that really focus on the goals of that person and what their dreams are, and we match them to the appropriate job. So there are many, many benefits to either hiring someone, you know, one person for a job, or hiring a social enterprise to come in and do some of this work.
That's great. Like I say, it's really about bringing that whole piece together and highlighting. That's what we love about Disability Pride Month. Let's highlight the benefits and the wins that people with disabilities have, and all of the different skill sets that they have, and bring awareness to it, because I think there's so much bias and stereotypes, and this is a great, not only this month, but a great way to start this month and continue throughout the year for us to highlight and debunk some of those myths and show the work and the quality of work. A company with 83% hiring rate of people with disabilities is to be commended. But again, you're not doing it because they have disabilities. These are people that are being hired based on their merits and being able to successfully sit in that job, complete it, and help an amazing organization run. So I think just a great example of where we're going and what all companies should strive to be doing. Edie, one other piece I want to follow up with there is just to ask if you could share with us, maybe why is it important for businesses and individuals to consider incorporating disability-owned or managed, or like Hudson River Services do, into their supply chain? Like, you all obviously do a very good job of it, but what benefit is it for companies to consider making that a part of their strategy as well?
Right. So I have some of those statistics that you asked for before, but hiring people with disabilities is an asset really to any company. It promotes an inclusive work environment, higher retention rates, and lower turnover. So the workers are really incredibly dedicated to their positions and bring a strong sense of loyalty to the workplace. Really, that's contagious, I like to say. But according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, businesses who have diversified their workforce to include people with disabilities reported a 90% increase in retention of valued employees and a 72% increase in employee productivity. So that's just incredible. Again, and I think too, it provides the motivation, right? And that's, contagious. At Hudson River Services, we have a quality track record with high customer satisfaction, and really the ability to approach any challenge with innovative, cost-effective solutions that are not only environmentally responsible, but also aimed at expanding social capital of the customers we serve and the people that we employ. So I think really that's really a big key to hiring social enterprises. Companies that employ people with disabilities may also be eligible for certain federal and state tax deductions and financial incentives.
A great part of companies that have like ESG missions and initiatives. So a great way to tap into that there. Lauren, I want to circle back to you as we've heard all of these great benefits that Justin and Edie has spoken about. Can you maybe talk to us about, from a company perspective, what do you see as some of the benefits to employers of opening this talent pool and being more proactive in seeking candidates with disabilities and working with disability-owned companies? We heard some amazing stats just now, but could you speak to it from a personal level of what you all have experienced as an organization?
Absolutely. Edie, thank you for sharing all of those stats. And I imagine much of what I say is going to be repetitive, but it is, our firsthand experience is that working with individuals who have disabilities and opening up that talent pool has allowed us to build a workforce that is bringing in a new perspective to our organization. And we see an overall increases in job retention, in job satisfaction, which we all know that turnover is very costly. So more job retention means you're saving on the bottom line. And of course, lower rates of absenteeism. People with disabilities, they also bring skills and experiences that can enhance and contribute to the workplace, increasing productivity, inspiring their colleagues to look at things in different ways, to learn new things. We've seen it overall increases company morale. It creates a welcoming environment where everyone can show up to work as themselves and be valued for their contributions. We work in communities across all 5 boroughs in New York City, and every community has very different wants and needs from the work that we do. So our different perspectives from team members allow everyone on the ground to collaborate on ways that we can improve our services to meet our community's needs. We also are very committed to hiring and training a workforce that is from New York City, and that includes people with disabilities. And it allows us to overall create more jobs, more job retention, satisfaction, and move our mission forward.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much. It's so great to be able to see it from a particular company's perspective. And so with that, we have a few more minutes left, but I'd like to turn it, while I have all kind of questions for you, it's not here for me to just talk about what I want to talk about. So I'll turn to the audience questions. First one being, for a business just entering in the disability employment landscape, what do you suggest is the first steps in making a concerted effort to reach out and recruit people with disabilities? And I know we probably have, I'll open it to the floor, but Hannah, maybe I wanted to pose it to you first, if you would, to just speak about like a organization being able to say, hey, where do we even start? Right? I mean, it might seem scary, it might seem like such a big undertaking to take on, but maybe what were one of the first few things you did at Chelsea Pier to just say, hey, this is where we could start, the first step we could take?
That's a great question. I actually only started in January, so I'm not quite sure kind of like how it started. I just know that candidates are
Seems like we're losing Hannah there. Okay, I'll open it to the floor. Anybody else want to take that question?
Sure. I want to highlight first partnerships with other organizations that specialize in this work are essential to getting the work started. Organizations will happily have the conversation with you, especially if it means getting folks with disabilities into the workplace. I think that recruitment gets tricky because sometimes we limit ourselves with recruitment by only reaching out to some of the same places. And when you reach out to some of the same places, you get the same people. So one, also advertising that your organization is more inclusive to folks with disabilities. Also background friendly, touting that in your job descriptions and making sure that folks are aware who are applying to your organization or to your business that it is okay that they have a disability. If they feel included, they're going to be happy. The person that has the quietest person, when their needs are met, then everyone is happy at the organization.
Yeah, thank you, Whitney. Anybody else want to tag on to that?
Sure, if I could just jump in, AHRC New York City also provides training for employers, right, and their staff, so disability awareness trainings, and we're happy to come in and have those conversations as well.
Great, so yeah, the takeaway is, like you said, there are people out there waiting to give you that information on where to start and what small steps you could take. So, and I guess that leads into the follow-up question about what kind of management and staff training is available to create a more welcoming and inclusive work environment. Can we be a little more specific about what the training could potentially look like for companies? Or any of the companies that have it that's on the panel want to speak to what they've done internally?
Again, I mentioned earlier, we partnered with AHRC NYC to have them come and present a short training for us that just got our management team in the mindset of being more inclusive, updating our language, being able to recognize what certain disabilities look like, so you are prepared as a manager to be able to handle you know, any type of conflict or opportunity that evolves on the work site, and do it professionally with the expected behaviors that the folks who you are employing are familiar with. So a lot of that training from the AHRC that Edie mentioned would come in handy, and being able to make those things applicable on your work site or at your work location are going to be key to making folks feel comfortable and included.
Thank you. And then maybe to address, like, we're talking about, having this workforce that reflects your customer base. Can any of you address why is that important? Why should companies be striving to make sure that there's that reflection of their workforce mimicking their customer base?
I think for us at the Hort, our customers are every New Yorker. We're out doing urban horticulture, maintaining public spaces, and helping the city to reimagine what green space looks like. So we're seeing everyone from all walks of life every single day. And to meet those community needs, having employees who are also members of all of these communities overall allows us to do a better job at serving our clients and our customers.
Thank you. And I see one more in here that I want to address, and that is, what is one thing you would like others to know about the positive impact of creating a more diverse and inclusive workforce?
I would say that it's not as daunting a challenge as you might think it is. If you can accommodate one job description, you can accommodate another, and that leads to being able to find accommodations in all of your job descriptions. So it's a challenge that is absolutely worth embarking on and encouraging your company to embark on.
That's great. And I think a lot of what we heard on this panel today was really just about the contagiousness of it, right? You get one person in, and that leads to more, and that leads to more, and it then creates that inclusive culture, storytelling. People get to share experiences, and then before you know it, you really have an organization that has a higher representation. So I think that's one great thing. We have a few minutes left, so I'd like to. One of the biggest things to me this year for 2023 has been the word impact. And as we look at celebrating Disability Pride Month, I think everything we do is about how do we make an impact. I want to circle back to Edie. You mentioned in your opening about your son and the benefits that he has from being employed. Can you speak to just the impact that as companies open up their talent pool and are more intentional about their hiring and inclusion practices, what impact that has on, an individual like your son, but also what broader impact does it have on your family in general?
Right. When I think about this, I, kind of try and separate, right, for me personally, because for me, life is always about service. So working for this organization and seeing the impact and changing the lives of people on a daily basis is really what my life's work is about. I've dedicated my life through advocacy and person-centered services and really that economic integration into each person's community. But for my son, and my family, he's one of four, right? So he sees his brothers graduating school, going to college, becoming employed. For him, he wants to be like his brothers, and that sense of pride. Now it hasn't been easy. I don't want to make it sound like it's been easy, his employment journey, because it hasn't. Trying to find that right fit for him and giving him the opportunity to learn from his mistakes and continue to receive that support is really critical, right? Because we've had lots of failed opportunities from interview process to actually working, and it wasn't really the right fit. But again, the support from the staff at AHRC has been incredible to help keep him really motivated, right? And give him the skills to learn, to empower, to actually speak up for himself on a job. You know, Justin mentioned too, we want the employers to be able to work with that person and not have to have, you know, the job coach come in and help support. So helping him kind of learn and build that confidence to speak up if he's having an issue, to ask if it's asking for help is okay. It takes a lot of work, and it takes a whole community of people, from the staff, from the families, and the employers.
Yes, like you say, it takes a village, but I love that it's also about encouraging them to be independent, and on both sides, the managers, like, you know, that AHRC is there as a support, but at the end of the day, how do we get to being inclusive and treating everybody as though they belong and just like everybody else? And so it's encouraging them to create that particular skill set that they need to communicate directly with, you know, that individual, just like they would with any others. Maybe one last comment. I'm going to leave that word impact out there to anybody. Have you seen an impact, or, you know, want to speak about what impact disability inclusion, any of the initiatives have had in your organization or personally?
Well, I mean, I can, similar to like what was said before, but I can just speak to the impact that employment has on someone's life, right? Like, so when I came, I think probably like 2006, 2007, I came to AHRC. And so there were several people that were around like the same age that I was when I first came, and I was job coaching them because I started as a job coach. And now I know I'm in a different role and that person is a different role, but to see those people every now and then. So like there's someone in particular, we share the exact same birthday, right? And we always call each other on our birthday. He's like, hey, Justin, happy birthday. I'm like, hey, John, happy birthday, right? So then I always like hear little updates about his life. Like I don't work with him anymore. He's in Manhattan, and I'm in Brooklyn now, but like I just hear the progress that he's made and that he's still making. And it just like really hits home, like the impact that a program like ours and what employment has in the community, like community-based employment has for someone's life. So like, you know, it's real. Like maybe as an employer, you don't get to see it as often. You're not privy to like all the details of that person's life. But yeah, like by hiring someone with a disability, you are making an impact in that person's life.
So thank you. Well, that is what I want to leave everybody with here today, is that we all have an opportunity to make an impact. As we celebrate Disability Pride Month, we have a few days left in July. I encourage everybody to figure out how you can make an impact, not just in July, but throughout the rest of the year. You know, being aware that DE&I strategy should include more than just the typical race and gender. You know, be aware of lots of other elements of diversity that you could fold into your strategy, particularly disability inclusion. And know that there are organizations there like AHRC New York for support. They are obviously very wonderful. If you haven't gotten that from the testimonials that you heard here today from the client partners and from the information that Justin and Edie provided today about all the different training, the support, the coaching, the mentoring that they have with these individuals, and then the benefits of the loyalty and the retention and the you know, the levels of inclusiveness that you could have that radiate throughout your company. There's so many benefits to hiring people with disabilities, you know, helping to increase those statistics outside of AHRC statistics. You know, the rest of it definitely still needs some work, and it's incumbent on all of us to, you know, do our part to help increase those numbers. And you can see that the ones who are doing their part, like Hannah Chelsea Pears and Lauren Keene Farrell and Whitney Sessoms over at the Hort, their organizations are benefiting so greatly from it. So thank you to everybody for being here. Thank you to all of my panelists for joining me, for sharing your expertise, for helping us to celebrate Disability Pride Month, and for sharing all of your information with our panelists and with our panelists also, because I know that there are going to be some great takeaways from here, but also to all of our guests for joining us, and we look forward to having everybody else continue to make an impact. Thank you so much.